until the Mafia boss saw it. Camila's hands were shaking, not from cold, not from exhaustion, from a thin gray band locked around her wrist that buzzed every time she stopped moving for more than 60 seconds. She'd learned not to stop, not to sit, not to breathe too long in one place. The Mafia boss watched her from the kitchen doorway. She was cleaning counters already clean, moving in frantic circles like something was chasing her. When she finally saw him standing there, what crossed her face wasn't surprise. It was pure terror. Someone had turned fear into a science. And it was happening in his location now, because when a Mafia boss discovers his maid is being tortured with a shock collar, what he does next is absolutely brutal and will leave you shook. Let's go. It was 4:45 a.m. Camila Reyes had been awake since 4. The band on her wrist tracked her sleep. If she slept too long, it buzzed. If she lay too still, it buzzed. She was 28, American citizen, raised in foster care, worked every minimum wage job that would take her. Then came Mateo, her son, 6 years old, the only good thing she'd ever made. Last year he got sick, appendicitis, emergency surgery, $47,000 in medical bills. No insurance. The debt collectors started calling. Car repossessed. Eviction notice. She called her sister Lucia, begged her to take Mateo, just until she could get back on her feet. That was 3 months ago. She'd been homeless for 2 weeks after, sleeping in her car until they took that too. Then a shelter, then a park bench. Then she saw the ad. Live-in Maid position, room and board included. Immediate start, $600 per week. She'd met Margaret Sinclair at a coffee shop. British accent, refined, immaculate. Margaret looked at her, saw the desperation, the worn shoes, the exhaustion, and smiled. I help women like you, women who need fresh starts. Camila had taken it. What choice did she have? First 2 weeks were normal, hard work but fair. Then Margaret's correction started. Small at first. You missed a spot, Camila. Your pace is too slow. Always delivered in front of other staff. Always documented. Then came the schedule. 15-minute blocks. Every task assigned a window. Color-coded on Margaret's tablet. Green meant on time. Yellow meant behind. Red meant failure. If a block turned red, there was a conversation. Margaret's office. Small. Windowless. We wouldn't want any issues with your position, would we? With your background. Margaret had researched her. Knew about the bankruptcy. The homelessness. The desperation. Who else would hire someone in your situation? You're lucky to be here, Camila. Very lucky. So Camila worked faster. Slept less. Stopped taking breaks. Week 6, Margaret called her to the office. Placed a gray band on the desk. The estate owner has invested in new staff wellness technology. It's a tracker. Monitors movement patterns. Productivity. You'll wear it at all times, including sleep. What if I don't want to? Margaret tilted her head. It's a condition of employment. Of course, if you're uncomfortable, you can leave today. I'll need to update your file. That follows you. Makes finding work very difficult. Camila put on the band. It fits snugly. Clinical. Like a hospital bracelet. For 3 days, it did nothing. Day 4, she paused in the hallway. Arms full of towels. Her body just stopped. The band buzzed. Sharp. Sudden. Her body jerked. Then she moved. Didn't think. Just moved. Day 7, she stopped to read a label. 5 seconds. The band shocked her. Small. Precise. Painful. Not enough to scream. Enough to make her arm jerk. Margaret appeared. If it buzzes, you stopped. Keep moving. Simple. That night, Camila tried to remove it. No latch. No release. Too tight to slide off. She tried everything. Nothing worked. 2 weeks later, the band had rewired her. Rule 1, never stop moving. Stillness was pain. Rule 2, never pause at windows. The band knew. Rule 3, never slow down. She learned to fold while walking. Carry everything at once. Clean from a squat that kept legs shifting. She stopped eating lunch. The band buzzed during breaks. After 2 shocks during meals, her body refused to sit. She ate standing, feet shuffling in circles. She slept in intervals. Night mode tracked her. If she lay too still, it vibrated. She slept in anxious trance, never fully resting. Body twitching, wrist tingling even when silent. Nightmares where she slept peacefully, then buzz came and she woke already moving. The worst part was gratitude. On days without shocks, she felt grateful. Like absence of punishment was a gift. She knew this was wrong. But recognition and resistance are different. She thought about Mateo constantly. Weekly 3-minute calls. Margaret listening. She kept them light. Mama's fine. Mama's working hard. Never told him about the band. The shocks. The fear. The house stayed perfect. Staff efficient. Visitors saw nothing wrong. Margaret maintained standards. The band was a tool. The shocks were incentives. Nobody noticed because nobody looked. Dominic Alvarez was 49. Lean. Dark-haired. Quiet until he spoke. Then everyone remembered. He'd inherited the organization from his father. Had rules carved in bone. Don't touch civilians. Don't use children. Don't profit from desperation. Never allow abuse under your roof. That last rule was personal. His mother. His uncle. A locked room when he was 9. He'd heard everything. Done nothing. He was not 9 anymore. He began noticing things about the new maid. The movement. She moved like someone being chased. Not efficient. Desperate. Turned corners too fast. Carried stacks too heavy. Eyes darting to her wrist every few minutes. The flinch. Hear a faint buzz. Turn the corner. Saw her standing near a window. Then moving instantly. Like the buzz injected adrenaline. She hadn't seen him. Only the buzz mattered. Later that morning, he passed her in the hallway. She carried linens stacked too high. Practically running. He stopped. She tried to go around. Her sleeve rode up. Just a second. He saw the gray band. Saw raw red skin beneath. Saw small burns where something pressed into flesh. Saw her realize he'd seen. Saw her yank sleeve down like slamming door. It's nothing, sir. Just wellness tracker. For scheduling. Already moving. Already fleeing. Faint buzz followed her like invisible leash. Dominic stood there. Perfectly still. Face showed nothing. But inside his head, one thought formed. Cold and certain as death. Someone in his house was hurting her. And he was going to find out who. Dominic didn't ask Margaret about the band. That would have been stupid. Shown his hand too early. Given her time to prepare defenses. Cover tracks. He was patient. Patience separated him from men who came before. The ones who acted on impulse and ended up in concrete or courtrooms. Instead, he watched. Over the next 3 days, he adjusted his routine. Took coffee in the East Wing instead of the study. Walked the second floor early morning instead of going straight to the gym. Found reasons to be in rooms where Camila worked. Not hovering. Not interrogating. Just present. And what he saw confirmed what he'd feared. She never sat down. Not once. Not in the kitchen. Not in the hallway. Not in the staff lounge with chairs and table specifically for breaks. He saw other staff. Jenna the cook. Marcus the groundskeeper. The part-time cleaner. All of them sitting. Resting. Talking. Eating. Normal human behavior. Camila was never among them. She ate standing. Always moving. Always in rooms where she couldn't be seen from main hall. He caught her once in a laundry room. Spooning something from a container. While her feet moved in slow, mindless shuffle. Left, right. Like part of her brain was counting steps while the rest tried to swallow food. He noticed how her hands trembled when she was tired, which was always. Noticed shadows under her eyes. Not from one bad night. From weeks of sleep that never quite arrived. Noticed how she startled at sounds that weren't loud. Door closing. Phone ringing. Voice from another room. Noticed most of all how she looked at Margaret. Not anger. Not resentment. The look of an animal that's learned which human controls the food and fence. Attentive. Anticipatory. Afraid. When Margaret entered a room, Camila's speed increased. Posture changed. Eyes dropped. Hand found work. Any work. All work. Like mere presence, activated survival protocol buried. So deep consciousness wasn't required. One evening, he found Camila in the staff bathroom. Door was ajar. She was standing at the sink, running cool water over her wrist. The band was still on. Couldn't come off, but she'd push it up slightly, carefully applying cream to skin beneath with her fingertips. The skin was raw. Not cut. Not bleeding. But raw from repeated irritation. Friction. Heat. Electrical contact. Tiny raised bumps where metal contacts met her skin. Tissue around them inflamed. Tender. She was applying cream with careful, practiced efficiency. Someone who'd done this many times. No frustration. No anger. Just maintenance. Like patching a tire. Not because you expected it to hold. Because the alternative was worse. She looked up. Saw him in doorway. Cream disappeared into apron pocket. So fast it might never have existed. Sorry, sir. I'll get back to work. Camila. Yes, sir. When was your last day off? She blinked. Question confused her. Like concept had been filed away in drawers she'd forgotten how to open. I have my rest period, sir. The schedule is very fair. That's not what I asked. I'm fine, sir. Really, Margaret has been very good to me. She smiled. That masked smile. Walked past him, already moving, already working. He stood in the doorway. Looked at the sink. Faint residue of cream on porcelain. Small hand towel folded and refolded. So many times fabric was soft as tissue. He opened medicine cabinet. Inside, hidden behind bandages, was small tube of hydrocortisone. Nearly empty. Squeezed from bottom with careful economy. Next to it, gauze and medical tape. Both partially used. She'd been treating herself for months. In secret. In bathroom off laundry room. At midnight. With supplies she'd probably bought from drugstore. She'd built private medical station and house that had full first aid room upstairs. Room she didn't feel safe using. Because using it meant admitting something was wrong. And admitting wrong meant facing the woman who told her wrong was a word for people with options. Dominic closed cabinet. Thought about economics. Tube of cream cost $4. The bandit cost everything. She was spending stolen wages to treat injuries caused by theft. The circularity was obscene. System didn't just hurt her. Made her pay for her own recovery. Dominic made a call. Not to Margaret. Not to anyone who might tip off the architecture. He called Rafe Santos, his right hand, 42 years old. The person who knew where bodies were because he'd helped move them. Also knew where accounting was because he'd helped audit it. I need you to look into something. The household monitoring system Margaret runs. The scheduling software. Whatever it is, I want to know what it tracks. What data it collects. Where that data goes. This about the staff. This is about one staff member. Rafe paused. He knew the tone. The tone Dominic used when something had crossed a line. A line most people couldn't see. But once crossed, triggered response, as certain as gravity. I'll have it by tomorrow. Rafe had it by evening. Came to Dominic's study at 9, carrying laptop and folder. Sat both on desk. Open laptop without ceremony. Systems called TrackRight. Enterprise Workforce Monitoring. Marketed to warehouses. Fulfillment centers. Agricultural operations. Tracks worker movement. Break durations. Productivity rates. Everything logged and time-stamped. How did Margaret get it? She set it up herself. 18 months ago. Account in her name. Billed to personal card. Estate isn't involved. Your name isn't on it. What does it connect to? The wristbands. 3 registered devices, but only 1 active. Serial number matches the one assigned to Camila Reyes. What does it do? Rafe turned laptop toward Dominic. Screen showed dashboard. Clean. Professional. Corporate. Looked like any project management tool. Graphs showing movement patterns. Bar charts showing active time versus idle time. Log scrolling down right side. Neat time-stamped entries. It monitors her location within the house. Tracks her pace. Break times. Idle periods. If she stops moving for more than 90 seconds, it sends warning vibration. And if she keeps stopping, Rafe click tab, labeled compliance actions. Screen showed log. Each entry had timestamp. Duration. Code. Some marked VW for verbal warning. The vibration. Others marked PA for performance action. What's performance action? Dominic asked, though his voice suggested he already knew. The band has 2 conductive strips on underside. When PA triggers, it delivers low voltage electric pulse. About same as static shock from car door, but repeated and targeted. Dominic said nothing. It's technically classified as haptic feedback mechanism in product documentation. Company went through 3 lawsuits. Rebranded twice. Based in Delaware. Products not illegal. No law specifically prohibiting it, but banned by 2 state labor boards. Flagged by 3 human rights organizations. How often has it shocked her? Rafe scrolled through log. Last 30 days, there have been 168 vibration warnings and 43 electrical pulses. Pulses cluster evening hours. 9 p.m. to midnight. Night mode. Dominic said. Rafe looked at him. You know about that. Not yet. Keep going. Night mode is setting that increases sensitivity during designated rest periods. Threshold for idle time drops from 90 seconds to 45. Rationale, according to product manual, is to discourage extended non-productive rest periods during overnight shifts. She's not on overnight shift. She's sleeping. System doesn't differentiate. Dominic stared at screen. Data was clean, organized, professional. Looked like performance review, not record of abuse. That was the entire point. System had been designed deliberately, carefully, commercially, to make cruelty look like management. What about the threats? What threats? Margaret's been threatening to report Camila, saying no one else would hire her. Rafe's expression didn't change, but jaw tightened. I verified Camila's background when she was hired. She's American citizen. Her paperwork is clean. Everything's legitimate. Margaret told her otherwise. If she lied. There's more. Rafe opened folder. Place printed spreadsheet on desk. Margaret's been docking Camila's pay. Every time PA triggers, Margaret deducts $50. Logged as performance adjustment. Last 5 months, she's taken over $4,000. Room was quiet. She's been stealing from her, Dominic said, and using fear to make sure she never asks for it back. Dominic stood, walked a window, looked at grounds. Lawn immaculate. Gardens trimmed. Stone walls solid and silent and dark. His house. His property. His responsibility. Woman had been tortured under his roof. Not with fists. Not with weapons. With system so clean and quiet it operated for months without anyone noticing. Without him noticing. He thought about his mother. The locked room. The sounds through walls. He was not 9 anymore. Give me Margaret's full personnel file. Every reference. Every past employer. Every address she's lived at last 10 years. When do you want it? Now. Rafe left. Dominic stayed at window. Very, very still. Next morning, Dominic arrived in kitchen at 4:55. Camila was already there. Of course she was. Van insisted. She was preparing coffee service. Task normally taking 10 minutes compressed into 6. 6 meant she could move to next block before system flagged her. She didn't hear him come in. Too focused on rhythm. Grind, pour, measure, arrange. Hands moving with mechanical precision. Someone who'd rehearsed sequence so many times consciousness was no longer invited. He sat at kitchen island. Stool scraping against floor made her jump. Good morning, Camila. Good morning, sir. Voice steady. Hands not. He watched her work. Said nothing for a long time. Silence wasn't aggressive. It was patient. Silence of someone making space for truth that wasn't ready yet. Camila, he said finally, I'd like to ask you something. I'd like you to answer honestly. She stopped, then started again. Couldn't stop. Band was awake. Yes, sir. Does that band on your wrist hurt you? Question landed like stone in still water. Camila's hands paused. Just a moment. Long enough for fear to register. Then she was moving again. Wiping counter already clean. It's a wellness tracker, sir. It monitors I know what Margaret told you it is. His voice quiet. Not angry. Worse than angry. I'm asking what it does. Camila's jaw tightened. Eyes dropped to counter. Band buzzed. Faint. Insistent. Demanding. Her feet shuffled. Maintaining minimum pace. It helps me stay on schedule. She whispered. It buzzes if I stop too long. That's all. It's normal. Lots of places use them. Does it shock you? Silence. Does that band deliver electric shocks to your wrist? Her breathing changed. Subtle. Shift from controlled steady rhythm to shallow, uneven breathing. Body just been told the invisible thing has been seen. She didn't answer. Couldn't. Well, I was ready. Always ready. Sitting behind teeth like guard dog. But something about way he asked. Something about way he was sitting there at 5 in the morning. Looking at her like she was person not function. Made lie impossible to release. Tear fell onto countertop. She wiped it immediately. Another fell. She wiped that too. Band buzzed. She kept cleaning. Sir, please. Voice cracked. I need this job. I have a son. If Margaret finds out, Margaret won't find out anything. She'll call someone. She said, your papers are fine. Your status is legitimate. I verified it myself. Camila stopped. Actually stopped. Band buzzed. She didn't move. Buzzed again harder. She still didn't move. My papers are real. She whispered. They've always been real. Something broke. Not loudly. Not dramatically. No collapse. No sobbing. The break was internal. Structural. Quiet failure of load-bearing wall holding up building made entirely of fear. She stood in middle of kitchen. Didn't move. Band buzzed. She didn't move. Buzzed again. She didn't move. Then for first time in 5 months her body was still. Not frozen. Not paralyzed. Still. The way person is still when they've been running, so long stopping feels like new kind of breathing. Band delivered shock. She flinched but didn't move. Dominic watched shock register on her face. Quick jerk of pain. Reflexive clench of jaw. Something in his expression changed. Subtle. If you didn't know him, you'd miss it. But if you did, you'd recognize it. The expression that came before a decision. Not question. Not consideration. Decision. He stood. Walked around island. Stopped in front of her. Give me your hand. She looked at him. Terror still there. But something else now. Something thin and fragile and desperate. Like chute breaking through concrete. She held out her wrist. Dominic looked at Band. Looked at raw skin beneath. Looked at small imprecise burns where conductive strips had been pressing into flesh for months. He reached in a pocket. Pulled out small folding knife. Not weapon. Tool. Kind that had opened 1,000 boxes. Cut 1,000 cords. Solved 1,000 small problems. He slid blade under Band carefully. Cut. Band fell to counter with small plastic sound. Sound of thing that had been more powerful than it had right to be. Camila looked at bare wrist. At red, irritated skin. At small marks that would take weeks to fade. Longer to forget. She pressed free hand over mouth. Then cried. Not quietly. Not politely. Not in practiced, invisible way she'd learned in laundry room at midnight with towel against face. She cried the way person cries when thing they've been holding back finally becomes too heavy to carry. Dominic didn't touch her. Didn't hold her. Didn't tell her it was okay. Just stood there. Solid. Present. Furious. Not at her. Never at her. Let her have a moment. When crying slowed, he spoke. You're taking today off. You're going to eat. You're going to sleep. And you're never wearing that thing again. But Margaret, I'll handle Margaret. Dominic didn't summon Margaret to his office. That would have been expected. Formal. Given her time to prepare defenses. Instead, he went to her. Found her at 8:15 in her small windowless office. She was reviewing morning data on her tablet. Track right, dashboard open. Camila's name highlighted in yellow. Flag because the band had stopped transmitting. Margaret looked up when he entered. Didn't stand. Didn't smile. Assessed. Cataloging his expression. His posture. The temperature of the room. Good morning, Mr. Alvarez. I noticed an anomaly with one of the monitoring devices. I was just about to sit down, Margaret. She was already sitting, but the instruction reframed the dynamic so completely she straightened as though the chair had changed shape beneath her. Dominic closed the door. Didn't lock it. Didn't need to. I removed the band from Camila's wrist this morning. He said, I cut it off. Margaret's expression didn't change. She was very good at that, maintaining the mask of professionalism even when structure beneath was shifting. But her hands resting on desk pressed slightly harder into surface. I see. May I ask why? Because it was shocking her. The device provides haptic feedback for productivity. It was shocking her, Margaret. Electrically. 43 times in the past month. Mostly at night while she was trying to sleep. The night mode parameters were set within manufacturer's recommended. You increased sensitivity during sleeping hours, so normal rest would trigger punishment response. You turn a human being's sleep into a violation. Margaret opened her mouth. Closed it. Open again. Mr. Alvarez, I understand your concern, but I assure you the system is designed to optimize productivity. The literature clearly states, Margaret. His voice had not risen, had not sharpened. If anything, it had gone lower, quieter, which was worse. I'm not interested in the literature. I'm interested in the fact that a woman in my house has been tortured for 5 months. And you logged it as performance data. Tortured is a very strong. You shocked her when she stopped moving. You shocked her when she tried to rest. You docked her pay every time the system registered what you called a failure. You stole over $4,000 from her wages. And you kept her compliant by telling her falsely that no one else would hire her. Margaret's face went through rapid adjustments. Surprise, calculation, indignation, then finally the expression she settled on. Righteousness. I was managing a difficult employee. She said, the standards in this house are extremely high. Some people need more structured guidance than others. There is no agency, Margaret. She stopped. I had your records checked. Dominic continued. The placement agency you used is a shell company. You set it up yourself 18 months ago. You've been recruiting workers directly, specifically poor women, specifically isolated women, specifically people who are vulnerable, placing them in positions where you control their housing, their pay, their schedules, their ability to leave. Color left Margaret's face. Not all at once. It drained slowly, like water from cracked vessel. Camila isn't the first, is she? Silence. Before her, there was Rebecca Torres. She lasted 2 months before she quit. Or before you made conditions unbearable enough, she believed quitting was her only option. Before Rebecca, there was Nina Walsh. She lasted 6 weeks. Before Nina, there was Jessica Grant. Those women were underperformers. Margaret said. Her voice had changed. Professional veneer cracking. Beneath it, something colder. Something hiding for a long time. They couldn't handle the expectations. That's not my fault. You selected them because they couldn't fight back. You targeted people who had no support system, no local contacts, no understanding of their own legal rights. You weaponized their isolation and their fear. And you did it not because you're a monster, Margaret. You did it because you could. She stared at him. Something shifted behind her eyes. Not remorse, not guilt, but sudden sickening awareness of someone who has been operating behind curtain for years. Just realize the curtain is gone. What are you going to do? She asked. Dominic looked at her for a long time. You're going to leave this property today. He said, you will take nothing that doesn't belong to you. You will not contact Camila. You will not contact any former employee. You will not contact any agency, real or fictional. And if I don't, then I will provide the documentation I've gathered. The device logs, the pay records, the shell company filings, the testimony to the U.S. Department of Labor, the State Attorney General's office, the FBI's Human Trafficking Task Force. The word trafficking hit the room like thrown stone. That's not, Margaret started. Forced labor, wage theft, coercive control through fraud and intimidation, exploitation of an individual's economic vulnerability for gain. Dominic recited the terms calmly, as though reading from list. I've been advised that these charges would qualify under federal trafficking statutes. You might want to verify that with your own counsel. Margaret stood up. Her hand was shaking now. Detail that Dominic registered with something that wasn't satisfaction, but wasn't far from it. You can't do this, she said. I've been here 7 years. 7 years I've kept this house running. You don't know what it takes to? I know exactly what it takes. And I know what you took from the people who did the actual work. She took a step toward him, not threatening, desperate. The desperation of someone who has been in control so long the loss of it feels like physical injury. I built something here, she said. This house was chaos before me. The staff were lazy, unreliable, undisciplined. I created a system that... You created a system that hurt people, Margaret. That's all you created. That's not fair. Fair. He said the word as though tasting it, finding it bitter. You want to talk about fair? Tell me, was it fair when Camila lay awake at 3 in the morning afraid to close her eyes because your device would shock her for sleeping too deeply? Was it fair when she ate standing up in the laundry room because your system punished her for sitting down? Was it fair when she rubbed cream on electrical burns at midnight in a bathroom the size of a closet because she couldn't use the first aid room upstairs without you knowing? Each question landed like strike. Not loud, not violent, precise. Margaret's mouth opened and closed. The righteousness was fracturing. Beneath it, something else emerging. Not guilt, not quite, but cold recognition of someone seeing their own actions reflected in mirror they can't look away from. She could have said something. Margaret whispered. She could have come to you. She couldn't. That's the point. You made sure she couldn't. You took every exit and locked it. That's not management, Margaret. That's a cage. The room was quiet. You have two options. Dominic said. You leave today quietly with your belongings and nothing else. Or I hand everything I have to federal investigators and you leave in a very different way. He paused. Let the weight settle. One more thing. The $4,000 you stole from Camila. It will be returned to her account by end of the day. From your account. Rafe will provide you with the transfer details. He walked to the door. You have 2 hours. He left. Margaret Ashford left the Voss estate at 10:30 that morning. She walked out the front door carrying a single bag. The same kind of single bag Camila had arrived with, though Margaret's contained considerably more expensive contents. Rafe stood by the door, not blocking it, not threatening, just present. Witness. Wall. She didn't look back. A car was waiting at the end of the drive. Black sedan with tinted windows. Driver who would take her to a hotel downtown where a room had been booked for one night. After that, she was on her own. The system was dismantled that same day. Rafe personally oversaw the process. The TrackRight account was deleted. Data was downloaded first. Rafe kept copies of everything. Always. But live dashboard. Monitoring protocols. Night mode settings. Compliance logs. All of it wiped. The band itself. Small gray device that had controlled a woman's body for 5 months. Placed in clear plastic bag. Locked in a state's security safe. Evidence in case it was ever needed. Household staff were assembled in main kitchen at noon. There were 5 of them, including Camila. Dominic addressed them personally, which was unusual. He typically left household matters to housekeeper. For obvious reasons. He told them Margaret had been terminated. Told them monitoring system had been deactivated. Told them schedules would be restructured. Pay would be reviewed. Anyone who had experienced anything inappropriate was welcome to speak with him directly, without fear of consequence. He said this in English, then repeated it in Spanish. Because he spoke both fluently. His grandmother had been Mexican. Language was as much part of him as the silence. He did not explain what Margaret had done. That was not his story to tell. But staff understood. They had eyes. They had ears. And they had noticed things about Camila. Filed away under not my business. Because in a house like this, minding your own business was survival skill. He thanked them. They went back to work. But Aaron House was different. Lighter somehow. As though pressure system no one had consciously registered had finally broken. Camila was not at meeting. Dominic had told her to rest. For first time in months, she had done so. She slept until 2 in the afternoon. Real sleep. Deep sleep. Kind that comes when body finally believes it won't be punished for surrendering. When she woke, the band was gone. Not just from her wrist. From her room. From the house. From the world she could see. She lay in bed for a long time. Not because she was tired, because she could. When money was returned, $4,250 appeared in Camila's account by 4 p.m. Transferred from Margaret's personal funds as instructed. Rafe confirmed transaction. Printed receipt. Delivered it to Camila in envelope with no label. She opened it. Looked at the number. Sat down. She sat down in chair. Without moving. Without shuffling. Without glancing at wrist to check if something was about to hurt her. She just sat, and the chair held her, and the room was quiet, and nothing buzzed, and nothing shocked, and nothing happened, except slow, impossible return of sensation she had almost forgotten. Safety, not the kind that's promised, the kind that's felt, in bones, in breath, in strange, disorienting stillness of body, finally being told you can stop now. Recovery was not a straight line. First week, Camila's body didn't trust the new rules. She still woke at 4 a.m., still moved through house with speed that was too fast for someone who wasn't being monitored, still flinched at her bare wrist when she changed positions, as though Ghost of Band was still there, still buzzing, still demanding. She would catch herself mid-step, mid-task, mid-breath, force herself to slow down. It felt unnatural, dangerous, like walking tightrope without net. Except the net had been the thing trying to kill her. She still ate standing up, not because she had to, because her body had forgotten how to eat while sitting. The chair felt wrong, too still, too passive, too much like the kind of rest that used to be punished. She had to retrain herself, the way person retrains hand after fracture. Slowly, deliberately, with patience of someone who understands healing is not the same as forgetting. Dominic noticed. Of course he noticed. He noticed everything. But he didn't push, didn't hover, didn't try to fix her with words or gestures or well-meaning attention that can for someone who's been controlled feel like different kind of surveillance. He gave her space, real space, the kind that isn't just distance but permission. He told her she could take as many days off as she needed. She took 2, then came back to work, because work was the one thing that had always been hers, the one thing that existed before Margaret, before the band, before the fear. She didn't want to lose it. She wanted to reclaim it. But the work was different now. She moved at her own pace. She took breaks, real breaks, sitting down, drinking water, looking out window at ground without terror of being measured for it. She ate lunch in kitchen with other staff, slowly at first, then with more ease, her body gradually accepting the chair was safe. That stillness was allowed. That absence of pain was not a trap. Jenna the cook sat with her one afternoon. I knew something was wrong. I should have said something. You couldn't have known. But I saw. You never sitting, never resting. And I did nothing. Camila took her hand. You're sitting with me now. That's something. A new phone appeared on her bedside table one morning. Prepaid. Unlimited minutes. No note attached. She didn't need one. She knew who left it. The first call to Mateo lasted 90 minutes. She cried for most of it. He told her about school, about a test he'd passed, about missing her. When can I come live with you, Mama? Soon, baby. Soon. For the first time, it wasn't a lie. She started calling every day. Not because she needed to, because she could. Because no one was timing her. Because no one was logging the minutes. Because the phone was hers and the time was hers. And the voice on the other end was the only sound in the world that had never been weaponized. Her sister Lucia asked once if everything was all right. Camila said yes. This time it wasn't a lie. She began to notice things she had stopped seeing. The way sunlight moved across kitchen floor in morning. The smell of gardens after rain. The texture of linens she folded. Not as tasks to be completed before next block turned red, but as physical sensation. Cotton. Cool. Soft. She noticed that other staff members talked to each other. Laughed. Complained about traffic and weather and television shows. Ordinary things. The currency of ordinary lives. She had been living in the same house as these people for months. Never participated in single casual conversation. Because casual required stillness. And stillness was not allowed. Now it was allowed. And it was terrifying and wonderful and strange. Marcus the groundskeeper brought her tea one afternoon. Set it beside her while she was folding in laundry room. You look better. Less scared. I feel better. Less hunted. Her wrist healed slowly. The redness faded. The burns flattened and paled, becoming marks that were hers. She got to decide if she covered them or not. 3 weeks after band was removed, she found Dominic in the garden. He was sitting on stone bench near eastern wall, reading book in Italian. Sun low and warm. Grounds quiet. She stood few feet away, unsure. He looked up. Sit. It was invitation, not instruction. She could feel the difference now. She sat. Neither spoke for a while. Garden smelled like cut grass and rosemary. Bird doing something complicated in hedge. Why did you notice? She asked finally. He was quiet for a moment. Bird finished its business. Flew away. Because I know what it looks like. He said, when someone is too afraid to be still. She didn't ask what he meant. She didn't need to. Some understandings don't require explanation. They exist in shared language of people who have known what it's like to live inside someone else's rules. Can I tell you something? Of course. The worst part wasn't the shocks. The worst part was I started to believe I deserved them. That I was slow, lazy, that the band was right and I was wrong. And the only way to be good enough was to never stop. She looked at her wrist. Marks had faded to thin, pale lines, barely visible unless you knew where to look. She turned my body against me, made me afraid of my own stillness, like my body was the enemy. And the only way to be safe was to keep punishing it. Dominic didn't respond right away. When he did, his voice was quieter than she'd ever heard it. That's what control does. Doesn't just take your choices. Makes you forget you ever had them. 6 months after the band was removed, Lucia called. I can't keep Mateo much longer. The rent here. The food. I'm drowning. Camila didn't panic this time. Send him to me. I'll cover the bus ticket. You can afford that. I got back pay. From before. The $4,250 she hadn't touched. And I have a place now. A real room. With space for him. Week later, Mateo arrived. Small boy with dark hair and bright eyes. He ran in her arms at bus station. Mama. Mama. She held him. Cried. Didn't let go. For first time in 6 months, she was whole. Back at estate, Dominic met Mateo. Boy was shy at first. But Dominic knelt to his level. Your mother is very brave. I know. Mateo answered. She's the bravest person. Dominic smiled. Rare thing. You're right. Mateo lived in staff quarters with Camila. Small room, but theirs. He attended local school. Dominic arranged enrollment. Made friends. Played in gardens. Ran through house like it was built for running. First night, he fell asleep in her arms. On bench in garden by eastern wall. Camila held him. Didn't move. Sat with his weight warm against her chest. Bare wrist resting on bench arm. She was still. Not from exhaustion. Not from fear. Not from learned helplessness. But from choice. Because her body finally learned most difficult lesson of all. Stillness is not a crime. Rest is not weakness. Absence of pain is not a trap. She was allowed, permitted, entitled, to simply exist in space, without earning it. 1 year after band was removed, Camila was promoted to head housekeeper. Dominic offered position personally. You know this house better than anyone. You know what it should be, what it should never be again. She accepted, ran household with kindness, not control. Staff had breaks, days off, voices. Standards were high but human. No one was afraid. No one shuffled in circles. No one ate standing in laundry room. She hired new staff carefully, looked for red flags in candidates. Anyone who talked about discipline systems. Anyone who used words like optimization. Anyone who saw workers as data points. Got rejected immediately. She protected the vulnerable, the way she wished someone had protected her. Margaret Sinclair was sentenced 4 months later. Federal labor violations, wage theft, fraud, 3 years prison, $50,000 fine, permanent ban from employment services. Camila read the news clipping once. Felt nothing but relief. Justice. Finally, 2 years after the ban was removed, Mateo was 8. Thriving. Top of his class. Happy. Safe. He called Dominic Tio. Uncle. Followed him around, asking questions. Are you really in the Mafia? Dominic answered honestly. Age-appropriate version. I do business some people don't approve of. But I have rules. I don't hurt innocent people. I protect people who can't protect themselves. Like you protected Mama. Yes. Like that. Then you're a good guy. I'm trying to be. Camila watched them from doorway. Her son. Her family by choice. The man who cut band off her wrist. Gave her life back. She thought about that morning 2 years ago. Standing in kitchen at 4:55 a.m. Hands shaking. Band buzzing. Certain she would die in that house. Now she was here. Head housekeeper. Respected. Valued. Son sleeping safely down hall. Family she chose. Not born to. Life she never expected. Better than anything she imagined. That night, she put Mateo to bed. Are we staying here forever? Do you want to? Yes. I like it here. You're happy, Mama. I can tell. She kissed his forehead. Then we'll stay as long as we want. And if we want to leave, then we'll leave. Because we get to choose. We're free. We're free. He fell asleep smiling. She stood, looked at her wrist. Scars completely faded now. Barely visible even when she looked. But she knew they were there. Knew what they represented. Survival. Strength. Freedom earned. She walked to kitchen. Found Dominic making coffee. 10 p.m. Late for coffee. Can't sleep. Thinking. About what? How close we came to missing this. You being here. Mateo being here. I was going to take those pills. She said quietly. Never told him this part. Night before you cut the band off. I decided I couldn't do it anymore. Had them hidden. Waiting for courage. His face went very still. You were planning to die. Planning to stop suffering. There's a difference. Not much of one. No. I'm glad you didn't. Me too. What changed? You asked if the band hurt. No one had asked that. 4 or 5 months, I was invisible. Then you looked at me like I was a person. Made me think maybe I'm not worthless like she said. He took her hand. The one that wore the band. You were never worthless. I know now. Didn't then. But you saved me from more than a band. Saved me from believing her lies. You saved yourself, Camila. I just held the door. She squeezed his hand. We saved each other then. Yes, we did. 3 years after the band was removed, Camila stood in garden with Mateo and Dominic. Her son running through grass laughing. Dominic teaching him about oak trees. She watched them. Her family. Her choice. Looked at wrist. Scars gone. Completely invisible. But she remembered. The buzz. The shock. The terror. Woman who said she was nothing. Man who proved her wrong. She sat on bench. Didn't move. Just sat. Still. Peaceful. Free. In that stillness, she understood truth she'd been too afraid to believe. Some people are born free. Some have to fight for it. She fought. She won. And nobody would ever put a collar on her again. Mateo ran over. Mama, you're smiling. I am baby. Why? She pulled him close. Looked at Dominic, who nodded. Looked at house that became home. Because we're free. And free is everything. Camila learned what many learned too late. Stillness is not crime. Rest is not weakness. Her body belongs to her. Not to system. Not to fear. Not to anyone who says she must earn right to exist. She is enough. Standing. Sitting. Moving. Still. She is enough. If this vibe, now, and drop a like. Comment your location if you believe no one deserves this. Share with someone who needs to know they're not alone. You're not your abuser's words. Your body belongs to you. Stillness is not a crime. Fight for your freedom.